we wonder, why am I held up by a train? Why is there a car accident? Why is the traffic like so deep? Why is this doctor's appointment taking so long? Like, when we're in a rush, we feel like we have so many things to do. But when you take the time and slow down, I'm here to tell you, you're going to get your blessing. You are in for a treat. The other day I went to the store, and the Lord told me before I went to this store, right? Because I normally don't shop at this store a lot because they're very expensive for groceries, right? But they have good groceries. They have great fruit that regular grocery stores don't have. So I went to the store, and the Lord told me upon getting out of my car that I'm going to see somebody that I knew. And I'm like, okay. You know how sometimes you don't want to see anybody when you just really don't want to be bothered, or you're just so tired and you just want to get in and out of the store. But I said, okay, God, I guess he had to go ahead and say, hey, don't be such in a rush. You're going to see somebody. So soon as I get in the store, no, when I was leaving the store, my husband and I saw an old teacher of mine, right? And I don't want to say old. That my teacher looked so young, and she's like my old teacher she was my English honors teacher in high school, and she was like, no, I saw her. She didn't even see me. I saw her as I was leaving the store, and she was looking at some fruit or something. And I said, oh my gosh, that looks like Miss Getz. And I looked, and she looked from the side, and I said, my gosh, she still looks the same. She hasn't aged not one bit. Now, this was umpteen years ago, this was over 20 years ago, right? And I said, oh my gosh. So I went to her and I said, hey, and I told her who I was. She said, yes, I do remember you. And I was like, go figure. But with all this, weight gain, we think, anyways. But I just want to say this. I was in for a treat when I saw her. And then I ended up saying, yes, remember Romeo and Juliet? And then she started reciting stuff. And then we started talking about grandkids, because I'm a grandma now. And she just began to tell me about her devotion that hasn't been published yet. And she says, give me your address and I want to send it to you. And I was like, oh. And I didn't realize how much of a treat I was, and how much of a treat I was in for, until I received that devotion. And I said, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And she sent me a card. I had to show it to my husband. I was like, isn't this the best thing? This is so beautiful. And I was just overwhelmed with joy, right? And then just today, I left an appointment. This is the part about traffic, right? Getting held up and feeling like you're in a rush. And I told the person I have an appointment with that, hey, I will be late. And she said, perfect, get you something to eat. And I was like, I don't want to get nothing to eat. But then I was like, let me slow down. Let me get something to eat. I went to get something to eat. And this gentleman, I was going to my car, and this gentleman stops me and said, ma'am, can you please get me something to eat? Now, I know you got to use discernment. You got to use discernment. And I really, the Lord led me to like, okay. At first I looked and I said, well, let me see how much money I have, how much cash I got. And then I said, well, shucks, I don't have any cash. And I said, well, what do you want to eat? And there was like 2 restaurants where I was. And he said, well, I want a sub. And I was like, where do you get it? You want a sub? And so I didn't realize that the place where I was at sold subs, right? And so I told him, I said, well, come on in. And I said, what's your name? He told me his name. And I told him to come on in. And I said, well, tell me what you want to eat. And he asked me, is it okay if I get a combo? And needless to say, despite of what condition that man was in, and I knew he had some type of delays and some mental issues, right? But that's God's child, right? He created him. And I introduced myself, told him my name was Monica, and I asked him for his name. He told me his name was Steve. I told him to come on up to the counter, and tell me what he want, and whatever he want, I was going to order it for. So I ordered his food for him, and needless to say, I paid for it, and I said, Steve, she's taking your name. They're going to call you with your order. I said, you have a great day. He said, thank you too, ma'am. I mean, just the nicest person you ever want to meet. I just wanted to get on here and share with you guys and just say, don't rush the day. Don't be such in a rush because you don't want to miss your blessing. God has need of you. You have purpose. And you're purposely put, probably held up by that train or that stoplight or traffic for a reason. So just take your time and just enjoy life, because life is literally like a vapor. One moment is here, you're here, and one moment you're not. So I said all that, not to scare you, but just to say, take it slow and enjoy life. And that's all. That's what I got for today's seed, guys. Hope you guys are having an amazing day. Take care. I love y'all. Until we meet again, don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe to Voice of Substance on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Y'all have an amazing day.